Two City TV. It's time for Two City TV. Today we speak with cable analyst Lenny McAllister about leadership.
Time for us to rise up. It's time for us to get together. We don't have the debilitating views of women versus men leadership. We don't have the issues between rich versus poor. Let's get out of it right now. Let's be historic. Let's not start chasing material items or make our mark by way of how much money or what kind of status we can have.
And self-defense instructor Matt Johnson introduces us to the devastating art of Wing Chun.
Push, and I use the box out.
Okay.
And then you notice this hand is ready to attack.
Gotcha.
In a straight line like that. So if you block, then my reaction will be
Fashion designer Barbara Bates shares her story about trying to get just sentencing for her son Christopher.
To her. Because life is going to have, peaks and valleys. And the great thing about being in a valley, to have a valley, that means there's a mountain on the other side. So you're surely going to come out of it.
And we close things out with highlights from Anime Midwest with our entertainment correspondent Ian Noel Camalotes.
Here's the start of the opening ceremonies.
Nice.
Some even took the time to chat with fans.
Anything you want to say?
I would say something, but then I'd have to reach through whatever device you're looking at me on and punch you in the face with my anger.
Get ready for a great show. Two City TV starts now.
And so we're here today asking the questions, what is black leadership? What's happened to black leaders? We're going to be joined in a few minutes with Lenny McAllister. He's going to tell us from a journalist's perspective where the leaders are. Okay, great. Well, hey everyone, back again. Sylvia Snowden here with Lenny McAllister, Chicago TV and radio personality. He's going to be telling us from a media perspective today, Lenny, what's going on with the leadership, where they are, what we need to do to get them out here, and why we haven't seen them in a while. Or so they say. We haven't seen them in a while. We're going to ask them whether or not that's even true. How are you doing today?
I am doing well. How are you?
No complaints?
That's good.
It's gorgeous. It's summer. It's Chicago, so I couldn't be better.
It's not 105 heat index. Right?
And say praise the Lord right after that.
Right? Tell me about
Definitely. So, I have to say, I was born and raised here, loved it here my whole life, but people say the city's changed, particularly black Chicago. We used to be this really thriving community, and a lot of people say that it's changed. What do you feel about black Chicago today?
Well, at this point in time, it has changed. I mean, from what I'm seeing more of the underclass. I'm seeing more of the despair, the hopelessness. What we need to do as far as a leadership perspective is get back to a point in time where there's a bustling black middle class, not just necessarily some folks that are doing well. It needs to be vibrant. That's how we're going to not only grow our middle class and become functional and stable again, but that's how we're going to get the underclass and pull them up as well.
Okay, so I want to ask you this. When we talk about leadership, there's a lot of back and forth about what that even entails. What, Lenny McAllister, do you say a leader is?
Mentoring, an example, visible, always on the clock, somebody that is a visionary, somebody that sees the bigger picture outside of themselves, somebody that understands that they're truly a conduit for change at all times. They understand that whether it's walking down the street or talking to a high school or college student, or how they spend their money or where they spend their money, those are examples of what other people's behaviors need to be modeled after. That's a leader. It's somebody that stands up when it's not popular. It's somebody that does the atypical thing at a time where the atypical thing is going to elevate a people or elevate a society. Those are the type of people we need more of in our society today.
Okay, so when we talk about our society, I want to bring it back to just black Chicago for a second.
Okay.
That sort of person you just described, is that person here, or are those people here? Yes or no?
I think they're here. I think they're dormant in some instances. I think they're at the initial stages of rising back up in other instances. It's really a matter of getting that synergy together. I know that is a played out word from a couple of years ago. I know it's no longer in vogue.
Right.
But we do need that synergy of young people that are doing well in business, doing well in media, being influential and getting them tied together and saying, what are the 2 or 3 goals that we need as black Chicagoans in order to bring up the underclass, in order to bring up the teenagers, in order to improve educational performances, in order to create more job opportunities. It's going to take us to start tying together and really lifting it up to the next level. And truth be told, we're going to have to get to a point in time where we say either A, get on board, or B, get out the way.
Okay, now you said a word a couple of seconds ago that I want to go back to. You said
Okay.
the leadership in the city was dormant.
Yeah.
Right? Now, what are some tangible steps you think we can take to wake it up, to get it moving and get it going and get it visible again?
No, one of the things I'm saying when I'm saying dormant is it's not doing all that it can do.
Okay.
I mean, they may be around, they may be doing good things. So I'm not saying nobody's doing anything.
Okay.
But what I am saying is it's clearly evident that it's not enough, because Chicago should not look like this. The south side of Chicago, the west side of Chicago, black Chicago should not look like this. Not with the money that we have, not with the millionaires that we have in this town, and not with the historical influence that Chicago has had throughout the nation on African Americans. So in that sense, we are dormant. Now, what do we do to rake them up? Number one, we have to start living the statistics. If you are black middle class, if you have a college education, if you're bringing in good money, you still need to understand what the majority of black Chicagoans are experiencing on the south side or west side of Chicago. We have to have some sense of pride. We have to have some sense of involvement in community again. We can't be so stratified when it comes to our economics or where we live as far as socioeconomics. We have to get back to a point in time where there's a common identity as Americans and as black Americans, and boiling down to black Chicagoans and saying, listen, this did not look like this 25 years ago. It looks like this now, and it doesn't have to stay this way moving forward. Just because there were projects here, there are no longer projects in Chicago. Cabrini Green is no more.
Out of there.
So, just the same.
Okay.
Do we have to have the same level of violence? Do we have to see the same disrespect of our women? Do we have to see the same drug use, alcohol use, abuse, dropout rates, and everything else? No. But that's where leadership comes into play. That visionary has to see a better future, has to see that we can get to a point in time where the dropout rate leaves 50, 55, 60% and drops down into the low 20s. We can see doctors on the streets again. The kid that is failing in 5th and 6th grade can still become a neurosurgeon, can still win a Nobel Peace Prize. That takes vision, and then from there it has to take persistence to get that kid from grammar school and struggling through college and beyond.
Oh, well, this is what I want to know then. How do we sort of bring all the elements together to get them to coalesce? How can we get Generation X and Generation Y in a room with the baby boomers and go, look, we've got to do this together. Let's come to the table and move it forward. What's it going to take?
Well, the first thing it's going to take is a set of goals. What do we want to do? What needs to be done?
Okay.
Is it improving education? Is it improving jobs? Is it a mixture of all these things? Let's identify them and then move one step at a time. If it's small groups, so be it. If we can get a couple of baby boomers, Generation X, Generation Y, get them together, so be it. If we can't, you get X and Y together. If you can't get X and Y together, you just get X and move forward. The bottom line is persistence. People follow folks that genuinely care. People follow folks that are genuinely trying to make a difference. And if you can do those things, people will stop looking at the generational differences. They'll stop looking at the socioeconomic differences. They may stop looking at complexion differences or fraternity or sorority differences. They'll start looking at the heart. They'll start looking at the merit. And that's where you start changing. I'll never forget something that some young folks told officers from CAPS. The CAPS officer said, when are you all going to stop wilding out? Don't you realize that you all are kids? Why are you wilding out like you're grown and bad? They said, you know what? When adults start being adults again, we'll start being kids again. You start being adults and lead us, we will promise you we want to be led. Who's going to start being the adult in the room when it comes to that? Who's going to love the kids enough past their frustration, past their current problems and struggles, past some of the mistakes they made early in life in order to get them to the other side? Malcolm X didn't find himself until 7 years in jail. We give up on our young people by the time they're 13 years old. That comes from baby boomers not having the patience, not having the ability to message with these young people, and giving up. That comes from Generation X chasing the American dream versus building the American dream. And that comes from Generation Y not understanding how to connect with the previous two generations.
That's interesting. Now, what I want you to do now is look right into that camera for me. Please look at them and make your plea.
The plea would be, Generation Y, we love you. We don't care about the tattoos. We don't care about some of the mistakes that you have made. We love you to the core. Generation X, it's time for us to rise up. It's time for us to get together. We don't have the debilitating views of women versus men leadership. We don't have the issues between rich versus poor. Let's get out of it right now. Let's be historic. Let's not start chasing material items or make our mark by way of how much money or what kind of status we can have. It is time for us to fix our communities in Black Chicago and Black America the same exact way generations before us did it. If you look at the civil rights movement, it was led by some people as young as 15 going to jail, sitting in jails for sit-ins, all the way up to people that died as old men at 39 years old. It's time for you and me to do the same exact thing. Maybe not necessarily die, hopefully not, but it is time to commit our lives to something that truly, truly matters.
And there you have it. This has been Sylvia Snowden. I'm here with Lenny McAllister. We're on the south side of Chicago. This is Second City News. Please stay tuned. Thank you so much.
The Wing Chun Self-Defense Academy opened officially in 2007. I was teaching before that, but mostly just private lessons. Fighting style of Wing Chun is very close quarters combat. We don't have a lot of high kicking. We don't have a lot of fancy movement. It's very clean, very efficient in its fighting concept. It's a system that's based more on concept and theory rather than accumulation of hundreds of techniques. The system only has 3 empty-hand forms, and in those forms is contained all the knowledge that you need to use the system, compared to some styles of Kung Fu that have perhaps 10 or 20 different forms that you have to learn. It takes you a long time to get good at using the art for real self-defense. Wing Chun can be learned and used effectively in as little as 6 months to a year of practice. And the more you keep on practicing, obviously, you just keep getting better and better. I teach open classes, men, women, children, 3 times a week. Monday and Wednesday from 5:30 to 8:30, and Saturday from noon to 3. I also teach small group classes, semi-private lessons, private lessons, seminars, and specialty seminars for businesses and things like that as well. What I found is that the students that move fastest through the art are people that kind of do a combination of private lessons and open classes. In the private lessons, you can go into a lot of detail, and it's sort of a one-on-one environment, so the student gets to kind of pick the teacher's brain and really get down to the depth of the art. However, in the open class, that's important because you get to train with all the other people in the school. And you have tall people, you have short people, you have fast people, you have slow people, you have different mentalities, and so you get more of a wide range of experience practicing in the open class. So it's really good. The students that move fastest take a combination of open class and private lesson. When you teach somebody the system like Wing Chun, which can be a very effective, devastating style, you don't want to give it to people that are going to use it in the wrong way. I mean, some people, they have ideas of martial arts. They like to bully other people. They like to use it for sport fighting and stuff like that. And, Wing Chun, in its purest sense, is a self-defense art. About attack from the rear as well. But a lot of times, self-defense situation, if somebody wants to hit you or grab you or something, they're going to have to reach for you, or they're going to have to reach for you, something like that. So there's a very simple block that we use called Pak Sao. And actually, you already know it. You already know this. It's a very natural human movement. It's a slapping block. Pak Sao means to slap, slapping hand. So the Pak Sao technique is just like if you were swatting a mosquito or anything away from you. It's a very natural reaction. So as the technique comes at me, then my reaction is to slap it away. You see, like that. Now, any motion coming at you can use the Pak Sao action. It doesn't have to be just a punch. It can be somebody trying to grab you. It could be somebody trying to shove you. A lot of fights will start with 2 people and then one shove the other. So the person goes to shove, and you use a Pak Sao. You slap the hand to the side. So you want me to show?
Sure.
Okay. So anything coming in a straight line come toward me, like with a shove or a push, then I use the Pak Sao. Okay. And then you notice this hand is ready to attack. Gotcha. In a straight line like that. So if it's a push, if it's a punch, same thing. Yeah. Then you see, I use the pox out to move your energy to the side. To the side. And then my attack will come in a straight line from the center of my body to the center of yours. If you block, then my reaction will be will be to remove the block, and then if you block that one, then I would remove it again and continue. Remove the block. Yeah. So it's a continuous action. So we build on the contact we make. If we make contact with one, then we attack. And if you block that one, then we build off the contact of that one. Okay. And then we hit that one, and we build off the contact of that. Okay. So it's a concept we call fan sao. It means continue your attack. Returning your attack like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, now what's a second scenario that people find themselves?
A second scenario would be sort of like, not many self-defense situations start with, somebody, a bear hug or something like that. Not many times does that happen. It might happen that, let's say, some of the videos I've seen on the internet is somebody on their phone, right? And what they do is they walk up, and then they are like this, and they try to grab the phone, or they try to punch the person in the side of the head. So again, something like that, if I had, and you were to grab, like you're going to take my hand, then you grab, and then you want to take grab that one. Yeah, and you want to, okay, so what I can do is use a movement we call tan sao. It means an opening hand or a spreading hand technique. And I use the tan sao to make it so that you can't keep your grip. See, you try to grip, and I turn my hand, and you can't keep your grip anymore. So once I do that, then I turn, and then I can use a pak sao again, and then I continue my. So you see, it's very simple and direct, not very complicated actually. Yeah. Another one is if somebody is around the head, around the neck, like this. So you can begin by sinking your weight a little bit, so that the person can't pull you backwards, like that. And I use an elbow strike to start striking to the ribs, like that. So maybe a guy is big and strong, he might not let go right away. But if you keep drilling him in the ribs, he will have no choice eventually.
That's the core.
It's a very vital area.
Okay.
And you'll start to knock the wind out of him, he'll start to experience pain, and then you keep striking, and eventually you'll weaken his grip to the point where you can twist and get out of it, and then get him in an arm lock. Or just get out of it and run, which is always the best. You get out of the hold, you get out of the situation, and you run. That's always going to be the best. It's not like a kung fu movie where you stay around and continue the fight. All it is self-defense. That means you defend yourself against the assault, and you get out of the situation. You run. Remove yourself so it doesn't continue like that.
Actually, we always knew for the year and a half that we were going back and forth that Christopher was going to receive a sentence, but I was never told, what kind of sentence we were looking at. When they first called and he turned himself in, they said he was looking at a life sentence. And I thought, what in the heck could he have done for a life sentence? But a mandatory minimum is if you have 2 priors, no matter if they're prostitution or theft, if they're felonies, a third one means automatic life. So that's one thing that in this United States we need to know. Not that he was slinging so many drugs or that he had killed anybody. It's the fact that he had 2 prior felonies and that a third conviction means automatic life. The government did depart, but we didn't know what the time was going to be. When the judge gives off the time, they give it to you in months. And so you have to sit there and figure it out really quickly. But all through the pre-sentencing, my stomach was just in an uproar. I went to the bathroom 13 times. I was sick. And when the sentence finally came down, I never know which one was worse, the breast cancer or hearing I had breast cancer or hearing that my son would be going away for 19 and a half years. And actually, I got the news of all of them came within a 3-day span. After my son actually self-reported, I got diagnosed with breast cancer 3 days later. So I had a double whammy. So the feeling was a numbing feeling, as well. It was like I couldn't believe it, like this couldn't be true.
Well, I want to know this. When they write you or when they reach out to you, what do they say?
I mean, there's like everything can be said. I mean, these are like just little small synopsis, that people says, I'm 30 years old, but I was 26 when I was sentenced. Due to my 10-year sentence, 2 of my children were adopted out to another family. I currently have a 4-year-old staying with a friend. By the time I get out, I will be 34 years old and my son will be 8. My name is blah, blah, blah. I was 26 years old. I'm currently serving a 10-year mandatory minimum sentence for crack cocaine. I believe that my sentence, along with countless of others, is extremely harsh and unfair. It's been really hard for me to comprehend a person like me with no priors receiving such a harsh sentence and an unjust sentence. 4 years I've been gone out of my life. My son's now 10 years old. I mean, these are like, everyday people, like you and I.
Oh, what do you say to a mom who's incarcerated and she loses her children?
I mean, there aren't words. There are no earthly words that you can say to a mom who has lost her child, to her being incarcerated or her child being incarcerated. But what I can say is that you have to find a blessing in all of it. I mean, because I have a girlfriend who lost her daughter to death. And so her daughter is gone. She can't speak to her and she can't talk to her. I was blessed through my son being incarcerated because I can still talk to Christopher. I can touch Christopher, and Christopher will come home and he'll have a chance at living a life. So you have to find a blessing through adversity, or you be sitting in a corner pulling your hair out because life is going to have, peaks and valleys. And the great thing about being in a valley, to have a valley, that means there's a mountain on the other side. And so you're surely going to come out of it.
Well, amen. Okay. You ever thought about going into the ministry?
No, I haven't been to church in all this year. My pastor's looking for me in the daytime with a flashlight.
Well, thank you. This is really outstanding. Wow. All those letters from people you've never even met?
And I really can't look at them because it's really upsetting to me.
And what do you say, because the Occupy Chicago movement is in town, it'll be here all week. They say that there are people who have stolen on Wall Street hundreds of millions of dollars and they've not been prosecuted because what they've done is not deemed illegal.
All I can say is shame on them, but there are so many fights that we can fight, but in the African American community and Latino community, we know what's being done to our fathers and our mothers. And the last mandatory minimum meeting I had, there were less than 100 people there. That's ridiculous. That place should have been filled with people that are concerned citizens. And when things like that happen, then I'm I need to go fight fight for Christopher. If you guys, your children are incarcerated, your husbands, your wives, and you don't want to come fight this fight with me, I can't fight it by myself. But I know how to go fight my son's fight by myself. And I think it's just people need to come together. It's in the African American community, whatever they did to us a couple hundred years ago by separating us, it's still working today in 2011.
Okay, now,
I really appreciate it.
I really just want to say, what do you want to say about your mom who's just been with you and fighting for you every single day? What do you want to say to her?
For me, I say it to her every day. I love her, and I mean, I don't know the different languages to tell her I love her, but I will learn them just so I can tell her in different ways that I love her. She's my best friend. She's everything. She's my mom, my best friend, my worst enemy, my biggest supporter. We everything. We like brothers, sisters. You name it, it's me and my mom. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So, I mean, I'm just thankful to, have her ride with me. She's like my number one girl.
okay. Last thing, Christopher, what do you think needs to happen to mandatory minimum? Should the government do away with those? Why or why not?
Well, I think they should do away with them, me personally, because they should sentence people according to the individual and to the characteristics of that individual. Because, I mean, certain people do things that might be deserving of a sentence that, is excessive or a mandatory minimum right now, but everyone doesn't deserve them, and, just sentence people on an individual basis.
I do. Thank you so much, Christopher, and just keep your head up. We're looking forward to you coming home.
Okay, well, I'll be home soon. I'm looking forward to doing another interview with you in person.
Sounds good.
Hello again. This is Ian Noel Camalotis from 2 City TV, and I'm here to talk about Anime Midwest, the anime convention that I was able to attend this past 4th of July weekend. Anime Midwest is one of Chicago's up-and-coming anime conventions. Like Anime Central, Anime Midwest draws fans from across the continent. Fans gather to converse and celebrate characters from anime, as well as internet celebrities and video game characters. Anime Midwest began back in 2011. This year, they hit their third-year mark and reached over 6,000 attendees.
Here's the start of the opening ceremonies.
Nice.
Like many great cons, Anime Midwest has a lot of entertaining events for all their guests, including discussion and interactive panels, gaming areas, both tabletop and video gaming, photo shoots, and anime screenings. Some of their main stage events included the ever-famous Dante's Date Auction, the Fantasy Ball, the Rave Dances, the Masquerade, Whose Line Is It Anime,
Xbox One.
Boxers or Briefs, where attendees get one more chance to ask any and all of the special guests questions they would like to ask.
If you're in that place that's dark or low, you should be really excited because the next place you're going to be is amazing.
And so much more. This year featured a variety of guests who hosted panels and autograph signings. Some even took the time to chat with fans.
Anything you want to say?
I would say something, but then I'd have to reach through whatever device you're looking at me on and punch you in the face with my anger.
This was my first year attending this event, and it was a blast. I look forward to attending next year. This is Ian Noel Camalotis from 2citytv.com.
So how do you guys like Anime Midwest so far this year?
It's really awesome. There's so much stuff to do and so many panels to go to and just a lot of events that are really fun.
So far I've had a lot of fun. I think Saturday was the most eventful day. We had trouble fitting everything in that we had to do. There were so many things that overlapped and we had a hard time making everything because there's so much to do.
This is my first year going and I must say I'm very pleasantly surprised. Well, not really surprised, but
That sounds nice.
It is. But it's really, really wonderful.
Well, I know a lot of the characters that you guys are playing, but could you explain to the audience who you're cosplaying as?
I'm Roxas from Kingdom Hearts.
Naminé also from Kingdom Hearts.
And I'm a Shadow Heartless from Kingdom Hearts.